Hey, good morning. Welcome to Sports Talk. I'm your host, Chris Raynor. Friday, October 25th. We're in the final hours of the high school football season. Well, not final hours, final weeks. A couple of weeks to go. One extension week given because of the teams out west, but most of our Eastern teams probably won't play a game that week. But, man, we're in the short rows, and we got two great guests with us from high school football days. We got Bill Mercer with us today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Quarterback at Richlands High School. And another quarterback from Richlands High School, Martin Page.
The quarterback.
The quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Quarterback Martin Page from Richlands. Y'all have some storied days there in Wildcat land, don't you?
Well, yes. Have some and some storied games going on right now.
They are. We're going to talk about that.
Story days.
A huge game getting ready to come
right
on. Martin, you were what was your senior year there at Richlands?
1972.
72, and Bill?
1979.
So you were kind of right there stomping on the same ground. A little far apart. You didn't play on some of the same teams, obviously, but
yeah, he was far enough ahead of me that I thought of myself in my memory kind of as a little boy.
He was the legend.
He was a legend.
He lived up.
Well, he was a legend. I was. I got to know as a young boy.
Well, we're getting ready to list our sponsors, and we know you well from that too, don't we?
Yes, I hope so.
All right. We appreciate all our sponsors.
I sure hope so.
We got National Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, the losses of John Drew Warlick, CNS Paint, Ron Choate, Victor Case, Onslow County Motor Company, Fountain Management, Sandra Fountain, Wismark, Chappie's Chicken, and Great Gas and Oil. Bartley Insurance Services, Bill Mercer. Give a little personal attention to our sponsor today. Got him right here with us. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for our sponsorship, too.
You're welcome.
Humphrey Heating and Air Conditioning, Rock Creek Golf and Country Club, Golden Corral, Lane & Associates Family Dentistry, Drs. Tommy and Kim Morgan, Jones Onslow EMC, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative, Southern Touch Painting, Barnes Diamond Gallery, and, of course, Bay Shore Animal Hospital with their new location now open at 623 East Sabston Drive in Swansboro. We do something a little different every now and then. We get Billy Bowls. They're called Billy Bowls from Helen's Kitchen. Today we have Billy BLTs.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that for you after the show. We're not going to feed you until you deliver a dynamite show. So we got to do a dynamite show and then we'll feed you. But they're delicious. Our Hurricane Watch is powered by Downey's Heating and Air Conditioning, Jason Humphrey. We have a little surprise today, or not a surprise because it's already been on Facebook, but we have a different thing for our Hurricane Watch. We have the TV play-by-play guy, Mike Maniscalco, calling in. He's the guy, the voice of the Hurricanes. He's going to be giving us their report for their Northwestern swing that they have to go on during the state fair every year. We'll talk more about that too. Our racing report is powered by Onslow County Motor Company, Ben Beasley and the gang. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Wave to everyone in the YouTube worldwide here. And watch the show and previous shows at YouTube at WSME Radio. You can also catch our show on the Facebook page at Freedom 97.1 WSME. And you can find all your favorite on-demand sports talk podcasts and stream the station live on our website at WSME971.com. So now, Richlands High School football. There's been some storied games over the years in Richlands. There's a storied one coming up tonight, a big one. You got the undefeated Wildcats, man, 8-0. That's a season right there already. Going to be playing White Oak. I think he's only lost one. I think that was the Jacksonville. So they call it the Byrd Bowl. I don't know if you've heard that before. You got Pat Byrd and Jonathan Byrd. The Byrd twins, I think they were separated at birth, and one got really big and one, stayed about the same size. But the Byrd Bowl will be tonight. Man, that's going to be a great game. What have you guys seen so far out of Richlands this year? We'll start with you, Bill, and then we'll let Martin, because I know, Martin, you've been to probably a few more games. So what have you seen so far, Bill? I know obviously 8-0, that's a great season.
Well, Martin can speak to the football aspect of it better than I can. I haven't been to enough games, of course, but I can tell you one thing that I have seen is the excitement of the community.
Oh yeah,
and the following that these guys have created is amazing, and it's just what's always been said about Richlands is that we have just about the greatest fans in the area, in the sense of it's been a great sports town forever without a great sports team most of the time. Yeah. Be quite honest with you, and
they got it rolling this year. Last couple of years they've been up and coming.
That's right, and so my hat's off to Byrd, but also off to the parents, also off to the community itself. I was talking to Larry Shepard a former great ball player at Richlands High School and coach. And I was with him this past weekend, and he said that the FCA program at Richlands High School's got over 200 kids in it, and that I think is indicative of so much good that's taking place in Richlands and at Richlands High School, and certainly. You know how everything begins with leadership. Everything begins with discipline and leadership and wanting to learn and wanting to be coached and a coach that cares about things and all that's kind of coming together. But the fans in Richlands are, they're diehard, just love it. And, you can relate to that, Southwest and Jacksonville High School, White Oak. It's great to see them coming back around their program.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be at Donnybrook tonight. Man.
Yeah,
Martin, want to talk about this year's team a little bit. You've seen them a couple of times. I saw them. I always see them at least once a year. Obviously, in the Battle of Highway 258 there, Saw them actually earlier in the season too, because we do a Jacksonville Richlands scrimmage live every year. So it's scrimmage is tough to get a feel on, but when we saw that scrimmage, I just saw some good things. Defensive wise and at quarterback for Richlands. Now, by my calculations, if my history in my mind is correct, last time Richlands was 8-0 was 2003, and they ended up going 10-0, and headed into the last game of the playoffs. So it's been a long time since they've had that kind of record. What have you seen from the team this year?
I bet you a couple games, and I really like the way Coach Byrd's handling the team and the players, and especially his coaches. He's doing a real good job letting the coaches be the coaches. And he's kind of overseeing the whole deal, which he's done a great job with it. And also, they're pretty good. Well, they're real good on both sides of the line. The defense has, stepped up and done a good job. They haven't been scored on that much. And the offense, it seems like to me, when they get it rolling, man, you just can't stop them. This is unreal. And Coach Leary, the offensive coordinator, seems like calling great plays all the time. Call a good play when you need a good play. And the defense, comes up with the ball when it need to. So that's basically it. Now, I did have a conversation with Coach Byrd a couple of times about what he likes to do and how he likes to coach it, which he told me that I think it's been like 3 or 4 years now, maybe. He's been here about 5 years, I think. But he told me maybe after the second year he got here, he had a bunch of young sophomore players. And he told me, Mark, we might not win a lot of ball games here the next couple of years, but I'm going to take these kids and work with them. And hopefully one day it'll pay off for us. And now that dividend's paying off for him.
Well, he's done something that no Richlands coach has ever done. He has never lost to Southwest. He's been here, 5 years now? Now, it's the first couple of years you had some COVID issues where they couldn't play. A couple of games were postponed. But a 3-0 streak on Southwest, for years you always heard the streak, and Southwest people probably overdid it, talking about 33 in a row. But, man, he's got it headed the other way quickly. Richlands playing great. Looking at their schedule, the Wildcats started out with a 28-14 win at South Brunswick, which is, prominent 3A school down there in Brunswick County on the turf down there. They've actually played on turf twice this year, which is probably more than most local teams have. Then second game, 25-0 over Southwest. Not just, the third win in a row, but a 25-0 shutout. Which game did you go to this year?
I went to a homecoming game. They played.
Let me see your jogging. West Carteret, Croatan, Swansboro. It was probably one of those.
I can't remember who they played.
Well, last week was at West Carteret, I'm pretty sure. I think it was away.
What was week before last?
Week before last was Croatan.
That was
Croatan game.
October 11th.
Yeah.
And so they're 3-0 in the conference already. They've beaten Swansboro 42-0, Croatan 42-14, and then shellacked West Carteret last week 61-27. So
then they scored 34 points in the third quarter
against West Carteret.
Yeah, it was a pretty tight game in the first half, and then they blew them out.
Come out in the second half all motivated. Now the other non-conference games they had, they beat East Duplin 19-0, South and North 57-0. So they had a 3-game streak there, 25-0, 19-0, 57-0, where they weren't scored on for 3 weeks. Now South and North, is obviously a little down, but looking back, we looked through the things, and as far as we could see, they had never beaten East Duplin and Southwest in the same season. So they've done a lot of firsts for this team right here. That was their non-conference run. Princeton was the one in between South Lenore and then the first conference game in Princeton. You know, they played there on that turf also. If you ever not been to Princeton High School, it's a great football atmosphere. Even though it's turf and I'm a grass guy, man, their facilities and their fans are just awesome. They're just a good program there. So they've beaten some top-notch programs, you know, all the way through. They West Carteret's always one of those teams in that conference that's just tough. Look at what West Carteret and Jacksonville always end up doing, you know. Jacksonville can be flying along and all of a sudden they get to West Carteret, and that's just always a tough game. Now, do you remember what the other one you went to was? Which team it was? Was it earlier in the season? Was it the Southwest game or not?
Yeah, I went to Southwest.
That was at
I went to Southwest game.
Now that game, early on, that game was close and just back and forth, and then
I thought it was going to be real closer than it was. Really, I mean, it seems like Richlands kind of got it going there in the end. But anyway, talking about Richlands, that quarterback they got is pretty impressive.
Simcoe.
I mean, he can run it, throw it. I mean, defense is real good. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I think the score when White Oak and West Carter played, it was like 63-47 or something.
Well, I can tell you here,
61-47.
Yeah, it was a higher scoring game too. It was 63-42.
Yeah.
So really,
so it's kind of
it kind of mirrors each other.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying because both of the scores were almost identical.
Yeah.
Really. I hadn't noticed that, but you're right.
First thing I noticed about it, I mean,
White Oak also beat. We'll look at their schedule too. They beat West Carteret, Croatan, and Dixon so far to go 3-0 in the conference. Their only loss was 15-9 to Jacksonville, and they say that game was a slobber knocker. Just one of them high school football games that was probably tense right to the end. And White Oak, I heard, was driving at the end, had a turnover or maybe turnover on downs, but they had a chance to win at the end. They started out with East Carteret 68-18, then the Jacksonville 15-9 loss. Beat Southwest. White Oak did 30-8. Northside, who's a little down now. Northside's not quite what they were with Easton in the first couple years under Kenny Pollock. They lost 48-6. Northside did. Swansboro, White Oak won 51-6. Croatan 27-7. And then, like you said, the mirror game there, almost identical to the score. West Carteret, Richlands, and White Oak were both almost the same, 63-42. Then last week, White Oak went to I can't remember if they went to Dixon. I think it was maybe at White Oak and won 44-20. Now Dixon's another up and coming program.
Yeah.
That coach has got them. They've had a couple of losses this year by 1 point or a couple of points, one score that easily could have gone either way. So that conference is picking up the pace pretty quick. Now you were talking about the quarterback Simcoe. He's almost Martin Page-esque in his game. He's able to run the ball, dual threat, and throw the ball. Now, you had a game, you went on to play at Elon, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that magical game that made the papers from Elon. Well, first of all, you were telling about one game, didn't you throw 5 touchdown passes?
I threw 5 touchdowns passes one game. That's why I threw 4 in one game, but when I threw 5 in, we lost.
Sometimes it happens that way. Look at when Carolina played, what was it? Who was the team they lost? We were just talking about it.
James Madison.
James Madison, yeah. And that kid has actually got some Onslow County bloodlines in it. He's a Barnett, that was the quarterback for James Madison. Who would have thought that Carolina would score 50-some points and lost by 20-some points? That just sometimes those games get like that. You just can't stop.
Like a basketball game,
And then sometimes you'll have a 7-6 slobber knocker where nobody can score.
Well, I mean, the tide in a football game could turn real quick. I remember one game we played.
Yep.
We played Catawba when I was at Elon. Going in the fourth quarter, the score was 7-3. Catawba.
Wow.
We beat them 44-7.
Sometimes it just
we scored
happens.
41 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, the defense did everything right. They were scoring touchdowns. The offense scoring touchdowns. It's just the tide just turned. It's amazing how it can, turn. One little play or one little bad call, whatever, can, turn the momentum on for the other team, and it's hard to stop sometimes.
And we've talked about it on the show before. Bill, you've been around a lot of high school football games too. Momentum is a fickle buddy.
Yes, it is.
Because you can all of a sudden,
same in golf.
one play can turn a game just like that.
Yeah,
it certainly is. Kind of going back to what you were saying about Page throwing 5 touchdown passes in one game, kind of just to put he and myself in perspective as quarterbacks. I threw about 5 touchdown passes my senior year.
So it was a little bit more of a run offense.
Yeah, we ran the option. But
now, who's your coach there?
Robbie Ellis.
Robbie Ellis.
Yeah, he came over from Jacksonville High School, and in fact, coached Richlands about 10 years and coached at White Oak for, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, Robbie was around
about
for a
10
while.
years.
He was a great coach.
Yeah, great guy, great coach,
Yeah.
and he's still a great friend. But he, you know, talking about the Byrd Bowl, talking about the turnaround at Dixon, and talking about all of this, it's going on in kind of a resurgence of football in Onslow County, from teams other than, let's just say, the perennials of Jacksonville and Southwest. I know Southwest kind of a little bit different right now, but the point being, leadership is such a incredible key in coaching, and having great great people leading these young men, and what a difference it makes. I mean, I'm not putting any coaches down, but Dixon has never had a real strong football program. They've had a strong baseball program, but it just shows you
right.
that if you got
get the right guy in place,
you got to get the right guy in place. That football. I mean, and I know we've all played football, but football is such a unique game, because football, you are literally, you can't operate an offense or a defense in football without all 11 guys being in sync.
Yeah.
Without all 11 guys, because a weak link is always going to be exposed. And football is such an emotional game. It's such a physical, violent game that it's very much like, being in a battle, in a war, to the degree that it's controlled by, the game itself. But it's just so unique.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I'll always remember, never forget what Jerry Allen from Great Gas, who's the announcer, for Jacksonville High School football games. He said that Coach Durham, before more than one ball game, and they played in some, as you said, slobber knockers at Jacksonville High School back then. He said that before games, that those boys, regardless of size, regardless of color, regardless of economic background, any of it, he said those guys were so together and so in love with Ray Durham,
Mm-hmm.
and led by him, and that before ball games, that he would be in the locker room talking with him and hitting himself, sometimes hitting his head on a locker, or hitting himself in the head with a helmet, just firing him up so bad, and would be sitting there with those icy blue eyes and red blood coming down his face, and those boys would be crying, literally, with emotion going out on that
He looked
football
like a
field.
professional wrestler the way they used to get there.
Yeah. And so a scene like that epitomizes what I'm trying to describe here, as to, you put the right people in place,
right
and it's based in hard work and trust, just like everything in the world is.
And we want to talk more about Coach. We got to take a quick break here on Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll have more with Martin Page and Bill Mercer, and we'll talk more about some of the coaching situations. So we'll be right back. Sounds good.
All right, good.
Hey, welcome back to Sports Talker. I'm your host, Chris Raynor. We've got our Hurricanes Watch on deck here. We have a special guest today, Mike Maniscalco. Easy for me to say, huh? The voice of the Carolina Hurricanes. Welcome, Mike. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, good to be with you, Chris, actually. So somewhere, wherever I am right now on the road.
So you guys are doing the state fair tour. You're not touring other state fairs. You're just touring somewhere because of our state fair, right?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, it happens every year that when the state fair hits North Carolina and Raleigh, and seeing it's so close to Lenovo Center, you get on the road for a little bit. And, you know, it used to be, in my opinion of it's changed. It used to be this is a tough thing. You got to go on the road this long at the early portion of the season. And, you know, the Canes would normally come back and you would hope, you know, 500 would be a good record off of the road trip. Well, now that the Canes have established themselves as one of the better teams in the league, and you look at the trip that you go on, I'd rather get these long trips out of the way in the early portion of the season so you don't have to do them in the second half of the year. So, yeah, there's no fried bacon for us or fried butter or fried Oreos or things like that. But, you know, it's not too bad to get through, especially this time of year. I'd rather make my way through Edmonton and Calgary and Vancouver than, say, January, which we've done, where it's not as balmy as it is right now.
That's true. And a lot of times on these Canadian swings, which includes Seattle also, and started with Pittsburgh and St. Louis. But on these state fair swings, we call it, a lot of times the Hurricanes are amassing 10 or 12 points, you know?
Yeah, that's the story now. That's why I think the tune should change from, oh man, this is a tough thing. You know, the Canes start off on the road, and you know what their record could be in October. And now it's like it should be expected that if this is a 6-game road trip, this one is, that this is a team that could easily come away with. You know, normally the word is if you get half of the points on a trip, that's a good road trip. You know, it's you win your games at home and you're 500 on the road. Well, this is a team now when they go on these trips, I expect them to get 8 or 10 points, not 6, not 4. So we'll see. Coming off of, you know, maybe one of the it's super early, but maybe one of the more thrilling finishes that we're going to see this year in Edmonton. Let me think. Yeah, no, I'm on the road, so I lose all concept of time. But that's the third game of the trip. We'll see what carries over from this. But no, the way they're built, the way they're constructed, and the way that they're playing, and it's super early, Chris.
Oh yeah.
But I like what this team looks like now. And look, there's going to be, with every team, you know, you're going to get blown out in a game, and then you're just going to absolutely, you know, be the best looking team in the NHL for a night. Early on, you just want to make sure that everybody grasps, especially the team's supposed to play. And, you know, for my money, for the first, it's looked the way it's supposed to look for the Hurricanes. So that's a good sign.
And I think some people, you know, like you said, jumped out that 4-1 loss to start the season, like, oh my goodness, all these new people. But then look what happened right after. You know, put together a couple of wins. That Edmonton finish was awesome. I was sitting there, stayed up late to watch it, you know, here on the East Coast, and I'm going, okay, you know, we're under 10 seconds. We're going to penalty shots. And all of a sudden, Aho just snaps one off, you know, one-timer, and, you know, the game's over.
Yeah.
So that was one of your more exciting calls, wasn't it?
Well, anytime you get a 3-on-3 overtime and the goal beats the clock to win the game, yeah, that's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get it caught up into it for me. So I don't have to manufacture any kind of forced emotion or energy or excitement for it. It's all right there. And when I, you know, was put into the job, I was very fortunate enough to talk to Mike Emmerich, you know, doc around the world. And I go, all right, well, what do I do now? And he goes, just tell him what you see. So that's all I do. I'm telling you what I see, and hopefully, you know, I'm you know, more accurate than a weatherman. And,
well, and you're a little different than most TV broadcasters because your broadcast is simulcast also for the radio broadcast, right?
Yeah, and you know, I want to be cognizant of that, but you know, it's one of those weird things that you can't go too far one way or the other. Right. But you know, my job is to, you know, this is what you see. I'm just telling you what I see with it, hopefully enhancing the experience for all of the fans that are out there.
Well, you have to give that little bit of description though for the radio also while you're doing the TV, so it's kind of the dual citizenship thing there. Now, I've worked with broadcasters before. I worked with one night where we were on radio doing a high school football game, and he said, "Did you see that?" And I'm thinking, no, I don't think they saw it, buddy. We're going to have to tell them about it. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes
Well,
you get so excited.
It's
You
always
don't.
one of those things. Yeah, it's always one of those things that's very, we're showing a replay, and Chip or I will say, look, and you see right here, we're like, yeah, well, we know that there's a portion that's not seeing it, but we gotta play to what we're doing. So,
well, we thank you so much for joining us. I know you got to get to the ring and get some things done today. Look forward to maybe doing this again sometime. We do our Hurricanes watch every week to keep the people here at the beach, up on Hurricanes hockey, and looking forward to a great season.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's funny because everybody thinks, off days and it's nothing but fun. You go and sightsee all this stuff. I'm like, no, we're spending pretty much all of our time in the rink watching practice or things like that. But appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
All right, take care, man.
You got it. Go Canes.
All right, bye. Full Yukon territory swing. It's not quite up in the Yukon, but it's pretty far up there. When you talking about 4 or 5 games in Canada right in the middle of your start of your season, and like we said, it started out because of the state fair. Now we were talking before we started. You remember the Carolina State football games being during the state fair?
Oh yeah, that was a major
Crazy.
disaster.
Oh yeah, crazy. You got all that stuff going on up there, and then you got you put a major college football game, or the college football game in the state right in the middle of it. Now, our Hurricanes report is sponsored. Hurricanes Watch is powered by Downey's Heating and Air Conditioning. Jason Humphrey in the game. Thank you so much for doing that. They sponsor several things for us during the year, but it switched to the Hurricane Watch in late September, early October, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with hockey, but it lasts a long time. They just had the Stanley Cup Finals a couple of months ago, and now here we are in hurricane season again. Do either one of you guys go to games ever?
I've probably been 3 or 4. Every time you go to, especially up there in Raleigh, man, the place is just full.
Oh, it's a live place, isn't it?
Growing up in Eastern North Carolina, we never watched any soccer. Ice hockey. But anyway, now we get to see it and experience and all that kind of stuff, and it's amazing how big, fast, and agile them guys are.
Oh, the one guy, the defenseman Brett Burns, is like 6'5", 280. That's a tackle back in the old days. Now you guys might be like me. Your first taste of real hockey probably was the '80 Olympics. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everybody in the country watched that, no matter whether you're a hockey fan or not, because
it was us against the Soviets.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And I still think it's possibly the greatest sports moment in United States history. Just
do you believe in miracles?
Yeah, that's the call. That is one of those iconic calls. You have that. You have Howard Cosell, down goes Frazier, stuff like that. The Giants win the pennant. Those calls that of course, Kirk Gibson. Now we were talking about the World Series too. Kirk Gibson with the Dodgers.
Oh yeah,
I don't believe what I just saw, because he's basically up there, just out of a wheelchair, and hits a home run to win the game. So stuff like that is that's the iconic calls that make the games what they are. We're going to take you ready for our next break, Hollywood? Are we good?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're going to take our next break, come back, and we'll talk more high school football with Martin Page and Bill Mercer. Hey, welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm your host, Chris Raynor. Time for our Racing Report. The Racing Report is powered by Onslow County Motor Company. Ben Beasley and the gang, they can put you in a race car. They can put you in any kind of car you want. Just go see Onslow County Motor Company and Ben Beasley in the crowd, and they'll hook you up, just like they've hooked us up with this Racing Report. Joey Logano won at Las Vegas. You guys been to NASCAR races before?
Oh, yes.
Back in the day, man, when we had our local tracks like Rockingham, we went all the time. I love that place.
In Rockingham.
What tracks have you been to?
I've been to Rockingham and Charlotte. And what's the one down in South Carolina? Darlington.
How about you, Bill?
Rockingham, and that was the last race that Davey Allison raced in, I believe.
Before he died
went
at
to
Talladega.
Yep.
That was tough. Tough loss for NASCAR there.
That was a pretty cool trip. I went with my late father-in-law, and we started out in the grandstands and ended up in the Winston booth.
Nice.
Had a good time.
Hey, we need to talk to them kind of connections right there. But
awesome. All due to him.
It's so cool the way, because NASCAR originated, from the Moonshiners in the North Wilkesboro area, Junior Johnson, that crowd. And it's so cool that they brought North Wilkesboro back. Yeah. I was actually there a couple of weeks ago coming back from a Panthers game. Mm-hmm. Don't judge me that I'm still a Panthers fan. I know. You see these people posting on after a Panthers loss. No matter what, I'm still a Panthers fan. Or if you're a real Panthers fan, you don't have to post it. No. People know that you're a Panthers fan. Right. But we stopped by North Wilkesboro to track there, and they're using it for hurricane relief. A lot of supplies there and trucking out and everything. And that place is just, you sit there in the stands and you're like, man, I can feel like I'm back in, 1978 watching a NASCAR race with Richard Petty and that crowd. It's just old school NASCAR. And I'm hoping they'll end up doing the same thing with Rockingham. We've heard that there's rumors they're still using it for testing and other races, but we've heard that they're going to try and start bringing it back. So I'm hoping so, because that's always been our Eastern North Carolina closest track we had. Now Charlotte is a great place to watch a race.
Never been there.
They get up to around, probably 200 in the straightaways, 180 average. Bristol, that's the one I've always wanted to go to, because you got 1/2 mile track, Martinsville, where they run about 89 miles an hour. Then at Bristol, they run 130, because it's like a bowl. Mm-hmm. It's like you used to see on the old thing on the Ed Sullivan show, where the guy would start in the motorcycle at the bottom and, work his way around him with an inertia and stay up on top of the thing. And it's just an awesome track. But we do have our NASCAR, our racing report. We also talk about our local tracks too, and we know they have stuff going on. You got Carteret Speedway and New River All-American Speedway. Look up on their websites, and you can see what events they have going on late in the fall. Joey Logano did win at Las Vegas. In a Ford, you had Christopher Bell in a Toyota, Daniel Suarez in a Chevrolet. So all three brands in the top three there. It just seems weird to me not to have Buicks, Pontiacs, especially Dodge products. I think Harry Brown should be the vanguard of that. Should be the one the tip of the spear to get Dodge back in NASCAR. Start those programs again, because, man, it just don't seem right without a Dodge or a Chrysler product in a NASCAR race. William Byron and Alex Bowman rounded out the top 5, and they're in their playoffs now. I'll be honest with you, I'm not as familiar with their playoff system. I'm used to it was just points every week, and the one that had the most points at the end of the year won the championship. You had that one year, y'all remember Alan Kowicki, that name. He ended up winning, coming from behind in the last race to win the points by like 3 points. So it was just one of those awesome finishes. What does that say?
This is my fraternity brother. His name is Woody Wichard out of
I've heard that name.
Out of Greenville, and he is weekend before last at the Virginia International Raceway, beat the second place Lamborghini by 20 seconds.
Really?
And he sends this text, sorry, but I had to brag about that. And that's his
his car?
That's his car. He's the car owner and driver.
Wow.
And he was one of my best friends and fraternity brothers from college. And he's dedicated his life now. I mean, he's had a stellar business career, but dedicated his life now to or his fun life to racing. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't think it's a
oh man, people can get in.
I don't think it's a cheap sport.
No, it's a little more expensive than golf and hunting.
He's racing those Porsches and I mean that's the kind of car. It's amazing.
When you say Porsche and Lamborghini, you're not talking about cheap products.
No. And so he won that race. Second place was 20 seconds, so I think that fits into the sports, the racing report.
And I think Richmond International or Virginia International Raceway is probably Richmond, isn't it? the track there, Richmond. I
I
would
think so, more than likely.
Well, looking at the point standings for NASCAR, Christopher Bell is leading in the playoffs right now. They kind of pare it down each week based on where the points are. So the last race, you just have a handful that are able to win the championship. They're headed off to Miami-Dade Speedway, which used to be Homestead, used to be the place where they would end the year now, but that's kind of in the middle of the playoffs. Now you got Christopher Bell leading the points, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Joey Logano. He moved up a bunch with that win. You never can hurt your standings with a win, can you? No, you're always going to help yourself in the standings. So thank you once again, Oswego County Motor Company and Ben Beasley and the gang for our racing report. We'll have more coming up because the next 2 or 3 weeks they're going to be winding it down and crown a NASCAR champion. I still say Winston Cup. I don't even know what the sponsor is now, but Winston Cup is just always was the big thing, you know. Yeah. And then you had the Busch Series as the Saturday races. But it would be cool to go. We're trying to get together a trip maybe for next year to try and do another NASCAR race. Now, you guys have a lot of connections in the world. If you have anybody with North Wilkesboro tickets next year they're not using, please call me because that'd be a good one to go.
He can get you a ticket.
Well, you got up in the Winston booth. You said one time.
Well, that was my father-in-law's.
Was it? Okay. All right. If you get tickets, man, we'll go.
I worked for RJ Reynolds Back Company for 30 years.
Did you?
Yeah,
so you were right in there with Winston Cup.
Oh yeah, I've been when I used to go to Rockingham. I'd sit on the pit row wall. They put Richard Petty in there.
Yeah,
Dale Earnhardt, all them guys.
So at Charlotte, you're probably hanging out with Humpy Wheeler and that crowd.
I went to Charlotte, a few times. I went to Rockingham more than I went anywhere. Every year for about 10, 15 years, I always went to Rockingham. Most of the time I worked it. I had to go around and
right, doing different things,
check things out. The Winston booth, go in there,
hobnob,
entertain customers, stuff like that.
Well, now you don't remember this because you didn't pay for parking anyway because you had VIP parking. But Rockingham was famous for being on a track. You didn't pay for parking. Like, this $30 or $40 you pay every time you go to the Novo Center or wherever now. Rockingham, they just always had free parking. They just had that big field and you just park.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was out in the middle of nowhere. And when Rockingham had its decline, I always thought that they should have gone the other way. Put a golf resort there. Put some stuff that people come to all year long instead of just twice a year for a race. Because you're looking at the Sandhills. I mean, that's what Pinehurst was made off of. That's great golf country. You put something there in a little destination, the airport, man, next thing you know, you'll have a place that people won't have a racetrack.
That's a great idea.
If you guys have been by the Speedway at North Wilkesboro, you said you haven't been to North Wilkesboro, right?
I have not been by.
I've been by it, but I've never.
So you see where it's at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing there. Yeah. I mean, even the road going to it off of 421, you're in people's neighborhoods.
Yeah.
There's just nothing there hotel-wise or anything. And that's why I think Rockingham could have, expanded on that and kind of made it like, who would have thought years ago that people would be flocking to Wallace as a golf destination? River Landing.
Yeah.
And he made that a place to go. There's a hotel, you stay there, you play golf, and if you make it, people will come. So
I think that you take a North Wilkesboro track and the Rockingham track and all the auras from that era, and you liken it to something like Fenway Park.
Yeah,
the old ballparks, and then just that historic nod to Junior Johnson and all those guys and the early pioneers of NASCAR racing that got it started in that area. And up around the mountains.
And that's what brought it back there.
Yeah.
All right, we got our Hurricane sounder. That means they scored another goal. That's good. So we're going to take our last break. When we come back, we'll have more with Martin Page and Bill Mercer. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Sports Talk. I'm your host, Chris Raynor. Friday, October 25th. It's time for This Day in Sports. We got Bill Mercer and Martin Page with us as guests. You're going to help us read some of this stuff. And, man, this takes you down memory lane, some of these. I'm already looking at them. I'll lead off here. Back in 1884, the first World Championship Baseball Series at the Polo Grounds in New York City. The Providence Grays of the National League beat the New York Mets of the American Association 12-2 in 6 innings for a 3-game sweep. The game was abandoned because of bitter cold. So,
wow, 1884.
October 25th, it was a little chilly that day. I mean, we've had, you guys are high school football guys. You've been in games where, around here in November, you might have a 75-degree night for a game, or you might have a 14-degree night for a game,
What, Martin, what's the coldest game you ever played in?
33.
33 degrees?
It rained and sleeted the whole game.
Yeah.
In a college playoff game.
Spitting at you the whole game.
Oh, yeah.
How about you, Chris?
Oh, I remember playing in some that were cold, and we played Clark in our senior year in the Eastern semifinals. It was cold and rainy. It was bad. Now, I remember a couple of games, watching Phil and coaching them stuff where it was easily down in the 20s, by the end of the game. And just frost on the field, because it's that time of year.
Right.
All right, you got number 2 there, Bill.
In 1905, the first college football Crab Bowl Classic. Navy beats Maryland 17-0 in Annapolis.
That is a good place to go there and get some crabs, ain't it?
I mean,
Well,
it is.
Crab legs.
Yeah. Legs.
All right, moving on.
You can get anything in Maryland.
That's right. Martin, we'll let you do number 3 to get us out of here.
1937, Casey Stansel signs to manage the Boston Bees.
Casey's thinking, but that's an iconic name for baseball, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we were talking about this a minute ago. In 1964, the wrong way run. Minnesota Vikings Jim Marshall runs 66 yards in the wrong direction for a safety. The NFL's number 1 blooper of all time. They said he picks up the fumble and gets discombobulated and takes off.
Yeah.
And for a defensive lineman, it's your dream. You're going to score a touchdown. And there's a guy hawking him down from behind, his own teammate, who's going to try and get the ball from him and at least get it back out of the end zone so it's not a safety. Well, Marshall, as soon as he crossed the goal line, throws the ball up in the stands. So it's the one of the all-time best bloopers.
Cost 2.
Yeah. Instead of getting 6 points, he gave the other team 2 points.
Yeah.
All right, Bill.
All right. In 1964, Dutchman Anton Giesink.
I'm glad you got that one.
Geesink. Giesink is first non-Japanese Olympic judo gold medal winner. Yeah, I got a poster of him on my in my
it's
garage.
rare you get into the judo world, into the sports world.
Yeah.
All right, Mark.
1964, English driver John Surtees finished second behind American Dan Gurney in season-ending Mexican Grand Prix at Autodome Hernandez Rodriguez to clinch his first F1 World Championship, edges Graham Hill by 1 point.
And I'm glad you got all those names.
Way to go, Mark.
You did a good job with them. Now, when you talk about obviously NASCAR is the big racing in this area, but probably Mario Andretti, Dan Gurney, names like that. AJ Foyt, remember him?
Oh yeah,
AJ could race anything.
We had NASCAR and Indy cars. Yes, sir. He was bad.
All right, and this was probably the best year ever. 1968, American swimmer Claudia Kolb wraps up the women's individual medley double in Mexico City, winning the 400 meters. I think that's individual medley, we'll call it, in Olympic record. I would say 5 minutes 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And she also won the 200 meter individual medley in Olympic record 2 minutes 47 seconds. That's some fast swimming. If I'm swimming that fast, please try and shoot that shark that's chasing me. That's the only way I'd get going.
How about imagine swimming that fast for 5 minutes?
No, not me.
I mean, really? Or running a 400 meter for 5 minutes at as fast as you can run.
Oh, I've said it on here before. If you ever see me running like that, too, please shoot what's chasing me.
Yeah, my preacher, Steve Smith from Trinity Methodist Church, was an All-American swimmer at Auburn University.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's his best friend and swimmer buddy was Rowdy Gaines. That's a name that you remember. Yeah, and he can tell you all about Rowdy, but we've talked a lot about sports and about the endurance that swimming takes. It's wild.
All right, Bill, you got the next also 1968.
1968 U.S. Now we'll remember this, I believe. U.S. men's basketball team beats Yugoslavia 65-50 to win the gold medal at the Mexico City Olympics, 7th straight basketball title for the Americans.
Now I think the one you were talking about, we're going
1972.
the one where they lost.
Yeah, 72. We were robbed.
I mean, they come back out of the locker room, the game was over.
But you remember '68 when the brothers were up in arms and what was the guys on the stand that were protesting civil rights and all of that. Carlos was one of them, and it was a poignant moment for the Olympic movement and for the civil rights movement in America, and it's kind of speaking to the times. It's kind of wild.
All right, Martin, number 9 there.
1973, Giants traded William McCovey to the San Diego Padres for the Mike Caldwell.
Yeah. McCovey and Caldwell too, especially McCovey. I mean, he's got a body of water name for him now. You know, there at San Francisco, sir. They call it McCovey's Cove. Yeah. If you hit the ball out, there's people out there in kayaks that go get the ball.
Amazing McCovey. Something I had forgotten that McCovey was traded from the Giants, but you just remember so well the Giants with Juan Martial and Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, and McCovey was just a great, big, just beautiful ball player, fantastic ball player.
And Chris Miller listens a lot and fact checks me. And if I'm not badly mistaken, Chris, you can text me if I'm wrong, but I think Mike Caldwell's from North Carolina. One of those,
yep, he is.
Tons of pitchers from North Carolina. The next one, as a matter of fact, leads right into that. 1978, San Diego Padres pitcher Gaylord Perry, him and his brother Jim were both from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Gaylord and Jim?
Yep. Gaylord,
and he wins the NL Cy Young Award, first to do so in both leagues. Then you had the Necro brothers. You had, of course, Catfish Hunter. That's just one of those all-time baseball names. Rookie Davis from this area. You had a ton of now those other guys, especially. I mean, winning the Cy Young Award. That's a nice company there.
The Perry brothers were from Williamston, and Catfish was from Hertford.
And the Necros, where were they from?
I'm not sure.
It was North Carolina, though, I'm pretty sure.
Who's that?
Joe and Phil Necro.
He was, but I
can't remember where.
All right, well, you got the next one there, Bill.
1981, George Steinbrenner scuffles with 2 fans in a hotel elevator.
You talk about an iconic owner.
Yeah.
The closest we come around here is the old boy from Charlotte, or from the Panthers, throwing a drink on the guy because he's totally screwed up our team. But anyway, don't get me started on that. But Steinbrenner and Billy Martin, you talk about a love-hate relationship.
Wow.
Love him, you hire him as a coach, you'll fire him in 6 months.
Yeah.
Then hire him back the next year,
Yeah.
I don't know how many times he did that, hired and fired Martin, but that was the subject of some of the old Miller Lite commercials.
Yeah.
The Taste Great, Less Feeling.
That's right.
Just iconic stuff. All right, Martin, you got the next one there.
1981, New York City Marathon, defending champion Alberto Salazar retains crown in 2 hours, 8 minutes, 13 seconds. Alison Rowe of New Zealand makes out women's race in 2 hours, 25 minutes, 29 seconds.
Ooh, that's a long time to be running. Hey, like you said, they got to have that endurance. The last one here, 1990, Evander Holyfield KOs Buster Douglas in 3 for heavyweight boxing title. That was one of those moments, not this as much, but Buster Douglas knocking out Tyson before that. That was one of those moments where if you were watching it, you remember where you were.
Yeah.
Because it was just surreal that it was happening, because you got this guy that everybody thought was kind of, just a thug, that's what they used to call wrestlers or boxers that were just basically in there to be, fodder for a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody just thought he would just be done. And the next thing you know, he's knocked out Tyson. Yeah. And then he didn't last long as champion for, Holyfield beat him. And then, of course, Tyson and Holyfield had that infamous ear-biting episode,
I tell you, I was in a diner type restaurant in New York City. Eating breakfast.
Uh-huh.
And Evander Holyfield came in by himself, and I didn't talk to him. I didn't go up and greet him or anything like that. But I, knew it was Evander, and he looked chiseled.
He's a big joker.
Gosh knows he's.
Was
big.
He like 6'5"?
You can't really believe how big he is, and it was after his career had ended, but not long after. And I tell you what, he was a specimen. And just seemed to be, real laid back, nice, and all that.
Oh yeah, big guy,
big dude.
And those in the boxing world that know boxing, you're already correcting me. I'm sure it's not called thug; it's a goon. They used to call him. They used to be the one that was basically just the guy that was a patsy for a lot like the Rocky movie. Rocky was just going to fight him just as kind of a show. Next thing you know, he's knocking you out.
How about imagine being a goon for Mike Tyson?
No, I don't be a goon for any
how much would you have to pay somebody? I mean, really, what you going to do this week? I'm going to Mike Tyson's camp, be a sparring partner. I'll see you tomorrow after lunch.
Well, Buster Douglas was his James Madison. I'm paying this guy just to get in the ring with me to beat him up. Next thing you know, I'm laying on the canvas.
That's the truth.
And he's the world heavyweight champion. Boxing, you don't see it as much as you used to. The UFC kind of took over, but it just used to. There was a lot of times when them heavyweight prize fights were win it all.
Larry Holmes was Ali's one of his main sparring partners.
Now, let's transition to heavyweight matchups. Once again, the heavyweight matchup tonight is going to be White Oak and Richlands. If you folks are going, you need to get there early because that thing's going to be full. Richlands, I imagine it encircling all the way around the track, don't you?
Oh, I would think so. It's going to be a big time game.
Standing room only. Now, speaking of, I'm going to give Hollywood a minute to get to the mic because he hates when I make him come up real quick like that. I've given you plenty of notice now. Give us the details on the Cardinal game tonight when you'll be on the air and everything.
Yeah, so second week in a row, the Cardinals and the radio station and the crew are hitting the road, going to Winterville tonight. Yeah, Winterville tonight. South Central, the Falcons. 6:30 will be pregame and 7 o'clock kickoff. So the weather's going to be great this week, man. Great night for high school football, wherever you're going. If you can't make it to the game tonight in Winterville, you can, of course, check us out. Check it out at 97.1, 11:20 a.m. for a little bit because we sign off on that frequency a little early. And then, of course, wherever you may be tonight, WSME971.com. You can listen right there on our website. Listen live button, really big there. You click on that, and you can check out the game. Comfort of your home on your phone.
Did you say you got a big butt? What?
What's that?
You say you got a big butt?
I said you got a big butt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I do got a big butt.
And so the comfort of your home, your phone, wherever it may be, it's real convenient, and the crew will be out there. So it's a lot of fun, man, and we're excited about it. And next week, by the way, I do believe we're back home, and it's homecoming for the Cardinals.
Yeah, should be north side to finish the year. Yeah.
Yep. So homecoming, and that's a big night. Of course, we got to give a shout out to Bradley's Jewelers. Of course, Brad and Susan, the crew there, will be giving a nice little pendant for the homecoming.
Boy, I wish y'all were going to Richlands tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to do that and call the game.
Yeah,
I know a lot of other people.
Go call the Richlands game.
Well, I know there are a lot of other people from other schools that are going to be there. They're basically bypassing their school's game to go to see that game.
Well, but we're not hoping for this to happen, of course. But if the Cardinal season has ended early or whatever in the past, we do call. We go to other games, and we've done Richlands in the past. So
carried East Duplin to the state championship a couple years ago.
Well, I hope that you're going to have to call 2 games from Raleigh or Chapel Hill. One Richlands game and one Jacksonville game.
I know, man.
Well, now that would be impossible because they're both 3A.
They are.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Used to, it could be possible because they subdivide, but they don't do that anymore. So both of them can't make the state championship at the same time.
Well, thank you.
But wouldn't it be cool if they were playing for the Eastern Finals?
That would be cool.
Man, would be. That'd be
man, that'd be a crowd. Bro.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second.
Let's talk about
from your, I know you're an expert.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Does Richlands?
I'm last place in the prognostic.
How does Richlands stack up against Jacksonville?
In the scrimmage, they look really good, but I'll be first to tell you, Bo Williams ain't gonna show you everything during the scrimmage,
right?
And most coaches aren't, so it's hard to tell. Honestly, and this is just my opinion, I'm gonna make both the Birds mad. That conference to me is just not quite where the 3A, 4A conference is, just because of the competition they play. I mean, White Oak and Richlands are as strong as anybody, but the rest of the conference probably is not quite what Jacksonville's playing competition-wise with Havelock. Havelock's a beast that you can't figure out because they lose to New Bern, and then Jacksonville beats New Bern, which makes normally the 3-way tie. Yeah. But that won't happen here because New Bern's 4A.
That's why I didn't realize.
So Jacksonville, to win the conference, Havelock's going to have to lose to somebody.
That's why I didn't realize Richlands was. I thought that definitely Richlands and Jacksonville were in different classifications. I thought Richlands had dropped back to 2A for some reason.
Now, probably
because of the weaker conference that they're in.
It's not so much, I wouldn't say weaker, just there's only 6 teams.
Well,
you have some teams like Swansboro in it that are not quite football powers.
But Jacksonville's got Jacksonville, New Bern,
right,
Havelock, Greenville Rose, D.H. Conley, and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you compare? So, I mean, to that question, when you haven't played a strong enough schedule early on and gotten those calluses from games like that, it puts you at a distinct disadvantage when you get into the postseason because of the caliber of competition that you have not played.
And this year's going to be a little different because they're throwing that extra weekend.
That 15-9 score with Jacksonville and White Oak is a good indication that Richlands is going to really meet its match tonight.
And that's going to be that shows you that White Oak is inching closer every year.
Yeah, I'm glad to see
that Jacksonville level.
Yes, sir. Right.
Now, for years, Jacksonville and White Oak started the season. Remember, and for many a year, White Oak started 0-1, and now we feel their pain because Southwest plays Jacksonville and usually 0-1 for the last 10 years or so.
How we all feel about sports. Martin's a huge Duke fan. And I'm a huge Carolina basketball fan. I'm East Carolina Pirate. But I hate Duke. But I love to see Duke be great.
Well,
does that make sense? And so that's how, because it heightens the rivalry. I feel the same way about these county schools.
Now, Martin has something to interject there.
Let me tell you a little story about White Oak. White Oak, back in the day, they became a high school when I was in high school, and then they started their first.
So that's when they started early 70s, late 60s.
It used to be Tabernacle over there, but they started their first football team. Guess who played them? We did. My junior year.
Is that right?
My junior year, when we won the conference championship. Guess who beat us?
White Oak won the first game.
Won their first game ever, and beat us my junior year where we had that real good football team.
So that's tough for them the first year being a team like that to come out like that. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Did they have Doug Banks?
No,
he was after that.
Yeah.
And that was before the Meadows.
Bill Parrish was
before the Meadows brothers. Yeah.
And they beat us. I can't remember. I won't be to say. I want to say 7-9-7 or 7-3, 7-7. Yeah, I mean it was we just it was just something.
How about that?
We had
that's great history.
We had the sports commission crowd on her last week, and Marisa Reeder. She's not a huge football person. When we were saying names like Slobberknocker and Quagmire, she looked at me and said, "Are those real words?" Well, in the football world, they are.
Football vernacular.
See, I didn't realize that about White Oak, that they won their first ever game against Jackson. Wow. And it's been a rivalry ever since. It's always been one of the hot rivalries. Now, that place, it's going to be on fire tonight. That's going to be a great game to watch. And luckily, there's ways you can go back and watch it now. That new huddle system, there's a website you can go to with a subscription and watch those games, things like that. I imagine Brian North he'll probably make it to that game. So I'm sure the Blitz will have some good highlights too. Now, are you guys going to any games tonight?
I've got to go to this dress rehearsal, and then after that, I'm going to try to get out there.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I did want to throw that in. Please give everybody the details on the Dancing with the Stars stuff, not just from your perspective, but for the cause it is and for when it'll be. Are there still tickets available as far as you know?
I believe that there are about 50 tickets available right now, but it's going to be Saturday night at the American Legion building, and here's the deal. It is for the Onslow Victims Center, which used to be the Onslow Women's Center, and it is completely spearheaded by Candy Thompson and her wonderful board of directors, which are encompassed by just great, predominantly women in this town, and but there are some men on that board, and they have been. I think this is about the 12th or 13th event that they've had, but through this event, which 10 people are asked to
10 stars.
Shoot, no, I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't dissolve into a comedic event. But anyway, are asked to do this, and it takes about 6 months of working with a professional dancer that's mainly over at Dance Theater, and on Doris Avenue, and then there's going to be dinner, a cocktail hour, a silent auction, and then the thing starts at 6:30, and the tables. I mean, it's a sellout. There's about 700 people going to be there, but my hat is completely off to Candy and this board because they have raised, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I probably over $1 million through this very event.
Yeah,
and it's our responsibility when you accept the challenge to do it. I guess it's your responsibility to raise money, and that's what that's the main purpose, is to raise money to step into the gap for people at this victim center that need your help and are in a scenario where they probably never needed help as much as they do right now to get back into the mainstream. Yes, sir. And that's what we're all supposed to do. We're supposed to step up for people that need us when they need us, and get them back on their feet and get them back into the mainstream, as you say. And that's why we're doing it.
You're fighting for people who can't fight for
absolutely.
themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now give them a little plug on where they can go to donate money if they want to.
Well, they can go to the Onslow Dancing Stars on Facebook, and then you can pick a person that you know, or someone that you may favor that you would want to support over others. Of course, my name's in there with Sophie McWeirton, who's just a wonderful young lady from that is a professional dancer that works for Dance Theater and other contracts out, and she's my partner, has taught me whatever we're going to do, and I've probably tried these two dances 100 times, and I've never gotten through one completely without messing up.
In frustration with it?
She's been pretty subdued about that.
Well, can you tell us what dances you're doing? Are you doing the tango, the foxtrot? What are you doing?
It's a combination of several different types of dancing.
Onslow County freestyle.
That's what I've always done, is freestyle, and I'm just a guy that loves music. But
Bill,
as far as being taught anything, I've never.
I heard you're going to be like your dance partner, like in Patrick Swayze fashion. You're going to be doing the lift.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, man.
I worked out for this thing. If y'all looking at me right now, you can tell I'm in great shape, and so I don't think that lift is in her future.
Well, if I was in a dance competition, you talked about the cocktail hour. It'd have to be cocktail hours to get me to.
Man, I tell you, I've said yes to a lot of things in my life. Some things that Martin especially knows I shouldn't have said yes to, but this is the good yes that I cannot believe I said yes to. I mean, I'm glad you did. I am freaked out right this minute.
Well, before we go, I want to go. We're gonna go old school before we go. I want y'all to think back in your minds while I'm running my mouth about a couple of stories from your playing days. A game that stood out, a crazy moment, something just, something wild. Anybody got one that's popped up that want to start? Or y'all need to think a little on it?
Well, I can tell you why I'm here. I mean, is this the end of the show?
Not quite.
Okay. Well,
tell us what you want to tell us.
I'll tell you exactly why. The main reason I'm here is because there is not, and let me preface it with this. I learned how to read, literally learned how to read by reading the sports section of the Daily News when I was a little boy.
Oh, I loved them Saturday morning football synopsis.
Yeah,
didn't you?
And you got players like Ron Hunt, and then and David LaBelle, and players from Jacksonville High School it was just like reading it was like reading the New York Times or sports section as far as a county boy. And at that time, I'm 63 years old, so do the math. And at that time, the players that came through, ironically, and fortunately, at the same time, there were 3 players that everybody from that era. And immediately after that era, we'll all attest to were fantastic. It was David Green, a guy named Greg Scott who Phil interviewed and made known to the county, and Martin Page. And David Green is in the county Sports Hall of Fame. He was the most valuable player in the CFL. He went to the NFL. He played at Edinburgh State, and he set all the records and was a phenomenal ball player at Richlands High School. Not going to go all into the details, but if there is a person that deserves inclusion based on the criteria that is called for, required to be in the Onslow County Sports Hall of Fame, nobody is more qualified or more deserving than Martin Page and another person. I mean, I'm all for Greg Scott and love Greg Scott and all that, but there's another guy that's from my era named Rick Morton, who is arguably the very best golfer that has ever lived in Onslow County.
And he's not just your era, man. Rick played for a long time.
And he's still playing. He's still competing. He's won national tournaments. He is arguably one of the top 3 strongest players to come out of this region, the Carolinas PGA, in the last 50 years, to include Bob Boyd from Wilmington, and Neil Lancaster may be arguably the best because of his record in the PGA Tour. Don't want to get into all that, but I can assure you that Rick Morton deserves to be in the County Hall of Fame.
Well, I think this gentleman too. I agree with you.
And Martin Page, from what he did in 3 sports and how he conducted himself, and it goes back to what I was saying, and I don't even want to cry, but when I was a little boy, we lived right down the street from the high school. And, Martin came along at a time when the wave had crested with racism and civil rights, and the times were very, very tenuous. And the sports programs at Richlands High School were the bond that we all shared. And integration took place just prior to Martin being in high school. And Martin played starting quarterback as a freshman. He started in every sport for 4 years. He was all conference in 3 sports for 4 years.
Was it football, basketball, baseball, or was track?
It was football, basketball, and baseball. He was kind of a larger than life, but he would take the time with kids like me. He had such a good heart and still does. And so the color barrier sort of disintegrated in ironic, to use a corner phrase, it disintegrated because of Martin as much as any other, figure that brought people together.
They were just brothers playing sports.
And then they had great teams during that period. They had real good competitive. It's like he was involved in bringing Richlands High School into the modern era. It's just there's just a confluence of reasons that all came together at the same time that I am trying to express here as to what a ball player like that meant to a small town that didn't get in the paper so much on Saturday morning until he came along, that didn't get the ink, that didn't get the respect, that didn't get all the things that Jacksonville High School completely took for granted. So for Richlands, North Carolina, during that time, every ball player that grew up in that era compared themselves to him. And so I'm just telling it like it is. And so there are just intangibles that can't be expressed through statistics. threw a 400-some batting average, or he averaged like 18 points a game in basketball, right, and batted over 400 in baseball and then was just a phenomenal ball player. I'll tell you one little story, and then I'll get off of it. But Jerry Tolley is a fraternity brother of mine that I was not from his era, but he was the defensive coordinator for Elon when Martin played for Elon for Red Wilson, who went on and coached at Duke.
Right.
And Tolley was a all Southern Conference ball player at East Carolina, and we happened to be in the same fraternity. So we weren't in the same era, but we were fraternity brothers, and we went to some events together where I got to know him just a little bit. But when Coach Tolley found out that I was from Richlands, did I know Martin Page, and then found out how well I know Martin all of my life, he said, he lit up like a light bulb. He said, bar none, the toughest ball player I ever coached. He said, let me tell you, he said, Page played quarterback for me. He played quarterback for us. He said, and if he hadn't played quarterback, he'd have been my middle linebacker. Yeah. He said, and you can't understand how good a ball player he was. And I did understand it. I still understand it. And I wish that whoever's within earshot of this radio station should put Martin Page and Rick Morton on your radar screen and by whatever means be included in next year's class in.
Well, they won't have one next year. They do it every 2 years
okay,
now. That gives us plenty of time to get that ball rolling. I'll find out the details, and I think anybody can nominate them. So I'll find out the details, and we'll see if we can get that.
I know that
ball rolling.
And I will take liberty to tell you this because it's the absolute truth. Phil Padgett was on this and was going to handle getting. He was going to navigate getting both these guys, Page and Morton. And look, it doesn't matter that much to Martin, and it doesn't matter that much to Rick Morton. I can speak for him in that vein. But it does matter because it's deserved. That's all I know to say about it.
Well, we appreciate those words, man, and I'm sure you appreciate those kind words. Now, give us a story. I know there's got to be one there somewhere, something that just one of your favorite memories about one of your games. I mean, obviously you had a game where you threw for 5 touchdowns. You had a game where you threw for 4 touchdowns and rushed for 98 yards at Elon, but give us more of a Richlands, one of the moments from back then. Anything pop in your mind?
Probably.
Well, first of all, who was your coach then?
Doug Swain.
Doug Swain, okay.
I will say this about my coach. This is the second time I've been involved doing this, okay? The first time I did it with Phil Padgett, and Phil called me up and said, Martin, I want to, put you on the sports talk show. I said, okay, that's fine. I said, well, first thing I want you to do is I want you to call my high school football coach. And he said, okay. And I said, I'm not going to say anything about me or whatever. But he called him. We got together and we talked on his show and all this kind of stuff. And my high school football coach told Phil Padgett, he said, Martin Page is the best athlete I ever been associated with any sport. And I've coached. I'm a retired coach for 30 years.
And I can tell that meant a lot to you to come from somebody like that.
Oh, yeah, it did. But anyway, talking about moments and stuff, I mean, I remember one time we just won the conference championship. First one ever.
What was the conference then? What was it called?
It was Swans. This is in high school.
So tell us some of the teams because it was different back then.
We played in Swansburg, Southmore, Byrd Bowl, which is Pender now.
James Keenan, Walsh Rose Hill.
Yeah, played Walsh Rose Hill. They had Jimmy Jerome.
Jimmy Jerome. It was the East Central Conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
But back then you had to win the conferences to go to the playoffs. Right. It's not like now you go 1-9 and go to the playoffs. Exactly. But anyway. But it's just, we won the conference championship. So the next week we had to play East and Wayne, excuse me. And they had Robbie Price in the backfield, which went on and played at Appalachian State and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, Score at halftime was 28-0. Eastern Wayne. We beat them 38-28.
What kind of motivational speech did y'all get at halftime?
Here's what the coach said. He walked in the dressing room. We were all sitting there, head between the legs. He said, "All you guys, I'll tell you one thing. You do not deserve to go to the playoffs next week where y'all playing." So, turned around and walked out. That's it.
That's all it takes.
That's all he said.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, I stood up and said, "Hey, boys, let's go."
Yeah. It's go time.
Well, and first play of the second half, I ran the opposite down the line of scrimmage, ran 64 yards for a touchdown. And it was on after that.
Yeah. And that's what we talked about. People that don't go to games don't realize that sometimes you might see in the next day, man, y'all lost 28-17. You weren't close to winning at the end. You don't realize that there was a play somewhere in there that if it goes another way, that game's different. And that's the way high school football is.
I'm very blessed too. So, and another thing I would like to say, I could not have done what I've done without my teammates and the coaches and all the inspiration I had. I could not walk that on the field by myself. I had some great players that played with me, and I was.
And so many times in today's me society, you don't hear that. You'll hear a player just basically give himself all the credit instead of realizing that those three guys that blocked for him was a big reason why he scored.
Well, it's a team sport. You got to, you can't, I can't block and tackle. All I did was, they did what I did. I won't tell you one more story and I'll hush.
Oh, please do. Tell as many as you want.
In basketball, Bill knows this story. Most time in basketball, I go home in the afternoon and take a nap. Okay, and the varsity game was getting ready to start, and Coach Byrd was a basketball coach, and he come over to my mother and said, "Where's Martin?" She said, "What do you mean?" She said, "My God, we forgot to get him up."
Sue just went to the game without you?
Sue, my sister, came to the house, woke me up. I woke and
house about 3 blocks away.
She said, "Martin, the game's fixing to start." I said, "Man." I got up, went right straight to my sister drove me to the gym, walked in the gym, and that own place was, it's a barn burner every time you play basketball wrestling. That's high school back in the day, but I went right straight to the restroom. I said, "Coach, I'm sorry, man. I fell asleep." He said, "Martin, don't worry about that. Just get your uniform on. Let's go." And I said, "Okay." I went out there and shot a couple of basketball because the time the game started. And I didn't know it at the time. Eddie Fogler. You ever heard of Eddie Fogler?
Assistant coach of Carolina.
With Dean Smith. I didn't even know he was there. I didn't even know he was there until after he left. I scored 37 points that night.
Well, you were well rested.
Good question.
You were.
But anyway.
He was there to see Greg Scott.
Anyway.
He saw the Martin Payne show.
Some of my buddies told me the next day he was there actually to see Greg Scott play. And Greg knows this, but anyway.
I can see you rolling out there getting the sleep boogers out of your eye and everything.
But anyway, the next day, Steve Marshall was a good friend of mine. A couple of my buddies said, "Martin, Eddie Folk was at that game last night." And I said, "I didn't really." I said, "I didn't know that." And anyway, he said that they got him cornered. Coach Fogler asked him, said, "Well, what do you think about the Scott kid?" He said, "I'm not really interested in that Scott kid. I'm more interested in that Page boy." Yeah. So anyway.
That's a great story, man. For somebody, and the thing is, you probably better not knowing he was there. You know what I mean? That might put a little more pressure on, but that sounded like an awesome game. And like I said, you had plenty of rest. So
but anyway, I would like to say this too. Hey, I'm a diehard RHS man. I always will be. You guys tomorrow night just play hard. That's all you got to do, buddy.
Tonight,
just show up.
Just
show up, leave it on the field, and you'll be fine.
I think that's gonna be a great game. Now, you made this statement earlier, something about experts in football. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm the one that puts this stuff together every week, and I have to suffer because I'm in last place. I do not ever pick against my Stallions, so a 2-6 season has not helped my winning percentage. So I'll leave that with that. Right now, I'm tied. I'm not last. Tied for last. Me and Joey Michalczyk are both at 45 and 17. Then you got Dave Miller at 46 and 16. You got 2 Irvin, Harry Brown, Michael Irvin and Harry Brown at 47 and 15. Then let's back it up to number 5 is Steve Goodson. He's moved up in the points the last couple of weeks, 48 and 14. Number 4 is Brian North at 51 and 11. Then the top 3 did not hurt themselves last week by going 6 and up. A lot of people picked against Lejeune because they were playing Pamlico, and Lejeune, is up and down this year. You'll never know what you're going to get with them. They went ahead and took Lejeune, and that was one of the the main game that separated. A lot of people went 5-1 just because they didn't have Lejeune. But the top 3 went 6-0. The top 3 are Bob Warlick, Jerry Allen, and Chris Miller. Right now, Jerry Allen's tied for third, or is third by himself, 52 and 10. Bob Warlick is 53 and 9, and Chris Miller is 54 and 8. So one game separating the top 3. One game to second, one game to third. So that's going to be a good, a good thing coming down to the end there. And tonight's picks, there's going to be some games. I think the Richlands White Oak game is probably going to be picked on both sides. You got Southwest and James Keenan. Now, you said are you going to try to go to the game tonight? Did you say?
Yes, I am. If I can be released to get there in time, I'm going to. I don't know what. This is my first and last time of doing this dancing thing, so I'm gonna have to do as I'm told. But if I can get there in time, I will.
Oh, Ashley, I'm sorry. It's because I had to. There was a tie for 7th place, so whenever that does, that means the 2 at 7. That means there was a 5th place person that was by themselves, and that's Ashley Mosley at 39 and 9. Now, Ashley,
and I like to make it clear that Ashley Mosley is one of the coolest guys.
He is.
He's one of the best guys in this town or in this area. I mean, I've gotten to know him, and I really appreciate what Ashley and Harry and y'all have done, Hollywood, with this place and with this show, this station, and what it's done for this community, and it's the community radio program. I know it's so beneficial, and I tell you on behalf of the whole community, thank you for that.
And you need to go to a game with Ashley. He's great to go to a ball game with. We had a great time
I've
at
called
that
a couple
Carolina
of games with him.
We went to the Carolina, whoever they played earlier in the year game, and they won that game too, didn't they, Hollywood? I think it's the last game they won, the Tar Heels, before they were 3-0, and they hadn't really played.
I think Bob Warlick has brought some shine to that broadcasting team. Yeah,
that team sounds
I think that's a good balance between
and Ashley loves Bob in there too, because he can go to the sidelines and
that's right,
mingle and give the coaches some input and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
We were at the state championship game, Clinton and Reedsville last year, and we got sideline passes. We were down there, and we kind of went over the corner, but I looked down there, and Ashley was right there amongst the Clinton team. I thought any minute he was going to put in a play in the game with the coach or something. He's just one of those guys that's just fun to go to places like that. And I do want to say this because I talked to Ashley this morning. He said, "Man, last 2 weeks have eaten me alive." He's been 9 and 5 the last 2 weeks, so he was right there at the top until the last 2 weeks. But I think he tried to pick an upset or two to kind of pole vault the leaders, and it didn't come through. So Ashley's right there. He's still in the run, and only a couple, about 4 games out of first place. So it's anybody's game right now except probably mine. Maybe me and Joey, we probably are a little too far to catch up. But that'll come down to the wire. Now, looking at tonight's games, there's a couple in there that could be separators a little bit. You got, of course, White Oak and Richlands. That's at Richlands. Then you got Wallace East Duplin. That one I can see going either way. Wallace isn't the Wallace they have been, and East Duplin is on fire lately. They had a lot of injuries earlier in the year. They had one game where they had 8 players out.
Wow.
And lost a couple of games they probably, normally wouldn't have. But the last couple of weeks, they've been on fire. Then you got Croatan and Dixon. That could be – it's at Dixon, and Dixon's up and coming. It would not surprise me to see Dixon win that game. So I can see that one going either way. Jacksonville at South Central, the Cards should take care of business. Mm-hmm. Hollywood and the crowd will be there. Before we leave the show,
how do you compare June to Colson?
Little different because of the way they use him. Jacksonville has more of a spread offense where they're using different ones. Now, last week was a good indicator of that because he ran for 407 yards. So 407 yards. If they wanted to, they could run him just about every down.
407.
They wanted to, they could run him about every down, and he could be an Eddie Colson type numbers guy.
Who could beat him if they did that?
Well, there's the old story that Ray Durham tells us that they ran Eddie Colson every play except one in the game. I was told it was every play. I think Ray's just doing that to to say, we had one play we did.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it's not that kind of style that
I know,
Bo's not going to wear
I know,
his running back out.
I know Bo's he's got a more intricate.
But I think as the playoffs go on, you're going to see June get the ball more and more because that's the way they can beat people.
I'm not being a Monday morning quarterback trying to criticize.
But, I mean,
Bo.
that just shows.
I love Bo and what Bo's brought to Jacksonville High School, but I mean, you got to. He's a once in every 10-year player.
Well, you're saving for the
or
playoffs.
20.
That's
40.
But it's kind of like having David Green in your backfield.
Yeah.
I run him every chance I got. One time I come back to
And
the
you
huddle.
called the plays.
He come back to the huddle. He come back to the huddle and said, with his tongue hanging out, said, David, I know you're tired, but you're going to run it one more time.
And see, June will play linebacker a little more as the playoffs come on, too, because he's a stud at linebacker.
Yeah.
My dad was at the game where allegedly they read Eddie Colson every play. My dad said, Eddie didn't play both ways, I don't think. So they ran him every play, but when the Cardinals were on defense, Eddie was selling popcorn up in the stands and selling tickets
and
stuff.
playing the trombone.
Yeah, in the band. Yeah. West Carter at Swansboro, I see the Patriots probably ruling in that one. North side at Havelock, that could be ugly. North side's a little down. The Havelock is on the rise. Southwest at James Keenan. James Keenan looks like right now it's their conference to win the East Central because they're 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Lejeune at Southside. I'm thinking probably Southside will take that one. That's up there at beautiful Chocowinity, North Carolina. Used to be a different name, but now it's Southside. So a lot of games that could possibly go both ways this week. If you go, I hope you enjoy the game, man. It ought to be a good one.
I can't.
Are you going to try to go tonight? You said you're going tonight, right?
Oh, yeah. I'll be there.
All right. It ought to be a great game. You guys got anything you want to add before we go?
Just thank you for having us.
Hey, thanks for having us.
It's been a great show. I've enjoyed having y'all on, and we'll try and maybe do it again sometime and tell some more stories, things like that.
I'm so glad that, I know that you and Phil were just as tight as you could be, and that you were one of his best supporters at Southwest and all that. And for you to take up his the show here and fill that lane that he had started in Onslow County through this radio show, I'm sure that he'd be extremely happy with the job that you're doing and have done, and thank you.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, but there's nobody that knows this area and the football players through that era and later like Phil Padgett.
Right.
That list he was putting together, I wish he could have completed it. I think he got to a point where he realized that probably the top 10, it was hard to separate.
Sure.
And you had, from different areas, you had a Kendrick Burney, you had a Martin Page, a Eddie Colson, a Marcus Jones, who was a defensive lineman. It's really hard to say that, when you look at probably pro careers, Marcus Jones and Mario Williams are probably the top two, but they might not have been the top two high school players.
Correct.
At the time. So it's so hard to differentiate between that.
And the thing about Padgett was from the time, that his daddy was the principal at Jacksonville High School, he grew up in education. He grew up in Jacksonville High School athletics, but he was a rabid fan.
Oh, yeah. He was a gym rat.
He was like somebody, he was kind of like me in Richlands, so interested in all the sports and sports in general, but the people. He was a people guy that he genuinely invested in people from the heart. And that came out in just that list he was doing and how much trouble he had with that. But, deciding who's the best 10 and who's the best this and that. He was just, he was so involved in everything he did from the heart. His friendships, his avocation, his vocation, and Lord have mercy, he's missed.
It was a great episode. You can go back and watch it on YouTube, the one where we had his two kids on here.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months ago or so. Man, it was just hearing him tell some stories about him, from the dad perspective, not as much coach, because, coaches miss out on a lot with their families.
Yeah, I had the honor of
that time
interviewing him on this show, and I was his interviewer.
Oh, really?
And that's archived, and gave him a chance to talk.
Did you get a chance to listen to the one where Marcus Jones called in?
Yes.
Yeah,
I did.
That's the most emotional I saw him later on, just because it was able for him to link back up with Marcus, and that was a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wind it up here. We do want to thank our sponsors again before we go. National Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, the losses of John Drew Warlick, CNS Paint, Ron Choate, Victor Case, Onslow County Motor Company, Fountain Management, Sandra Fountain, Wismart, Chappie's Chicken, and Great Gas and Oil, Bartley Insurance Services, Mr. Bill Mercer, thank you, Bill, Humphrey Heating and Air Conditioning, Rock Creek Golf and Country Club, Golden Corral, Lane Associates Family Dentistry, Drs. Tommy and Kim Morgan. Jones Onzo EMC, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. Southern Touch Painting and Barnes Diamond Gallery. And, of course, Bayshore Animal Hospital has their new location at 623 East Saviston Drive in Swansboro. Thank you to Helen's Kitchen for those BLTs we're getting ready to dive into. They make phenomenal Billy Bowls, the breakfast bowls. But every now and then we say, let's do a BLT or something. Because I knew this show might take a little longer, so we're closer to the noon hour. So I think we have it for lunch today. Our Hurricane Watch is sponsored or powered by Downey's Heating and Air Conditioning, Jason Humphrey. Great. We really appreciate Mike Maniscalco calling in, the voice of the Hurricanes. He's a super approachable guy to be at the level he's at. So I look forward to doing that again sometime. Our Racing Report is powered by Onslow County Motor Company, Ben Beasley in the game. Once again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is YouTube at WSME Radio. You can catch all those previous shows. And like Hollywood told me before the show, that YouTube archive is so much easier than the old Facebook way was. You can just roll through and find them.
And I'll tell you this, we just recently went in there and labeled every single show.
I worked really hard to do that.
Yeah, you did work.
I did nothing. Hollywood
did it all, man. But for you,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no. But anyway, every show is archived in there, and you just scroll through them, and it's so convenient. So I just go to our channel, and you can check that out. Also, then the audio podcasts are on our website, WSME971.com. And
if you can't stand to look at my face the whole episode, just listen to the audio.
You can listen to it on there, and it's real convenient. So please check that out.
I was told a long time ago I have a face for radio, so I understand that. Yeah. And while you're hot on the mic, tell us one more time about the starting times and everything for tonight's game.
Oh, sure.
South Central.
Yes, at South Central tonight, Winterville. We're headed there. The Cardinals, 6:30 pregame, 7:00 kickoff. You can listen, of course, 97.1 if you're in Onslow County, surrounding counties, and if you're going to be anywhere else, on your couch, on your phone, outside the area, in New York City, wherever you may be, you can listen to WSME971.com worldwide. So do that.
And go. You say it.
What's that?
Go Cards.
Oh, go Cards.
And then I'm going to let these guys in it because it's the big night for their team.
Yep.
We'll end the show with
Go Cats.
Oh, yeah. RHS.
Right. We'll see you next week on Sports Talk.